I stood at the edge of the living room, fingers trembling slightly as I brushed off a few invisible specks of dust from my jeans. The familiar scent of my mother's famous chili wafted through the air, mingling with the worn leather of the vintage couch that seemed to have absorbed every family memory over the years. It was Sunday evening, the time we had always designated for our family dinners, a tradition that was supposed to bring us closer together, but tonight felt anything but cozy. My heart raced as I glanced towards the dining table where my family had gathered. They were all chatting and laughing, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. I could hear the sound of forks clinking against bowls and my father's laughter booming like thunder, sending chills down my spine. I was the only one who knew there was an invisible divide that threatened to tear our family apart. "Hey Audrey, you coming?" My brother's voice cut through my thoughts like a knife, pulling me back into the present. He waved me over with a casual grin, entirely oblivious to the tension that had been gnawing at me for days. I wanted to scream at him to tell him that he should care, that we were standing on a precipice, but instead I forced a smile. "Yeah, just getting ready," I replied, my voice betraying a slight tremor that I desperately tried to mask. As I approached the table, I could see my sister's eyes darting between my brother and me, the same calculating glint that always suggested she was just waiting for the right moment to strike. "Finally decided to join us, huh?" my sister said, her lips curving into a smirk that felt more like a taunt. "What were you doing, staring at the wall for inspiration? Or were you counting how long it takes for mom's chili to boil over again?" The laughter around the table simmered, and I caught my mother shooting my sister a disapproving glance, but my sister simply shrugged. "What? I'm just curious how long it takes for our goody two-shoes to crack." She finished riding on a wave of jeering laughter, my father's deep chuckle rising above it all. I felt my cheeks heat up in a way that burned from the inside out. "Leave your sister alone," my father finally intervened, his tone authoritative as he pointedly looked at my sister. "Pull together as a family on these nights, remember." He ruffled my brother's hair as though everything was hunky-dory, blissfully unaware of the tension thrumming between us like the quiet buzz of an electrical cord onto which nobody had yet plugged a lamp. I wanted to believe my father's words for a moment. I wanted to think that we could simply negate the specters of betrayal that loomed over my mind, but I couldn't ignore it any longer. The weight of the hidden secrets threatened to crush me. "Of course, Dad," I said, forcing a laugh that felt wrong even as it escaped my lips. My sister rolled her eyes, clenching her jaw, and I could see her delighted amusement withering under the glare of our father. "Come on, it's all in good fun," she said, feigning innocence. "We can't have a boring dinner now, can we?" But I could see the sneer behind her facade, the way she relished dancing on the line of family tension, always pushing, demanding to see how far she could provoke me. As we all settled down to eat, my mother ladled the steaming chili into our bowls, her movements calm and rhythmic. I caught a whiff of cumin and tomatoes, the comfort of the dish grounding me momentarily, but my mind flickered back to what I had stumbled upon just days ago, a letter. It was a simple, private letter that I had found tucked away in my mother's desk, barely brushing the surface of the family's true turmoil. My eyes had widened as I read the words scrawled in my father's familiar handwriting, an explanation of his intentions regarding the inheritance he planned to leave behind. A sum that would amount to $100,000, but there was a catch. The letter had made it clear that my sister was favored, that she would receive the larger share of that inheritance, tipping the family fortune like a scale forever in her favor. I could feel a knot tightening in my chest, raw and visceral. Anger bubbled beneath my skin, and as my family bantered around the table, my heart beat a relentless drum of betrayal. "Do you even like the chili, Audrey?" my brother asked, eyebrows raised in curiosity, a light-hearted expression that almost seemed like a plea to join their laughter. I could hear the clattering of cutlery against the plates as everyone turned to look at me. "It's great, really good," I stammered, trying not to focus on the questioning glances or the growing unease that settled in my stomach, heavy like stones. My mother's warm eyes softened as she smiled at me, a look that usually made me feel small, cherished, loved. But today, all I could think about was the unfairness of it all and how brutally favored my sister could be under the guise of family loyalty. "You should have seen her face at the art exhibit last week, Dad," my sister chimed in, pretending to muse. "Like a deer in headlights, couldn't even tell if she liked the paintings or just wanted to take a nap right there on the floor." Laughter erupted at the table again, erupting like a cheer at a sports game. My heart sank deeper and I felt foolish. I decided to reclaim my voice, to remind them that they weren't entirely justified in their mockery. "Well, not everyone can appreciate the pretentiousness of modern art," I snapped, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Everyone went still. My brother's mouth dropped open as my mother raised her eyebrows at my outburst, visibly caught off guard. And my sister, the corner of her lips twisted into a grin like a predator who had just spotted its prey, suddenly leaned forward, reveling in the attention that I had unwittingly drawn. "Oh, so the little mouse has teeth," she exclaimed, her tone dripping with mockery. "How brave of you, Audrey, didn't think you had it in you. Can we just have one peaceful dinner?" My father interjected, his voice a ticking clock of annoyance, clearly searching for a way to douse the spark between my sister and me. The tension was oppressive, a palpable weight pushing down on us all, and for a moment I felt suspended in air, battling the rising tide of resentment in my throat. But before I could respond further, a loud crash startled us. The door swung open and slammed against the wall with such ferocity that I felt the ground shake beneath my feet. My grandmother stood in the doorway, her face twisted in disbelief. I can't believe you all forgot my birthday dinner, she shouted, anger slicing through the air like a knife. It was undeniable that my grandmother had delivered the final blow. Her presence seemed to twist the knife deeper into our already strained atmosphere. First, you forget the cake, and now this. How is it that a family cannot celebrate together? The sudden shift caught us all off guard, hearts racing as our attention turned to her, jolted from our familial squabble. My mother rushed to comfort her, moving past my sister and me with a flurry of apologies about how our dinner was indeed a mix-up, while my sister's expression flickered from amusement to irritation. It's only one day, Grandma. We'll celebrate later, but can you please not make a scene? She scoffed, completely dismissing the hurt etched on our grandmother's face. But just as quickly, that playfulness began to drain from her expression as she realized that the true threat to our family harmony was not my sister, nor my grandmother's birthday, but the specter of the divided inheritance looming over us all. It was as if we were no longer sitting together as a family at the table, but rather we were on a battlefield, wrangling against our differences. I could feel the sting of betrayal creeping back as my grandmother's voice quivered, demanding a place at our table, and 5 pairs of eyes flickered around the room, guilt intertwined with hostility. I need to talk to you all, my grandmother's voice broke the silence, her words heavy with unspoken truths. I felt my pulse quicken. This was the moment. The revelation could shatter everything we've built, and I did not know if I was ready for it. I became acutely aware of the feast laid out in front of us. The chili that had once seemed welcoming now felt bitter, cold food preserving the growing discord between us. As my parents whispered to each other in hushed tones, I sensed the brewing storm that was yet to unfold. My body was taut with anticipation, the air thick with unformed tension, and my thoughts flooded with a potent mixture of determination and desperation. I had kept the letter hidden, my secret mind to wield against the family that had chosen to mock and belittle me, but it was also the key to revealing the unfairness that dictated our loyalty and favoritism. A sudden realization surged within me. This was not just my concern, it was about all of us. We were all on the precipice of an emotional cliff, and if my grandmother pressed further, all our secrets would tumble down into the abyss. It was now or never. As my heart raced, I finally lifted my gaze, the resolve flooding my veins, ready to confront the truths that had long been buried under laughter and whispers across dinner tables. Grandma, I ventured, interrupting the frantic murmurs that ricocheted in the room, if you have something to say, I think we all need to hear it. It's now or never. The words left my mouth, amplified by a sudden tide of courage that surged through me. And as the silence thickened around the table, I could see the color drain from my sister's face, and for the first time I noted the flicker of fear in my parents' eyes, a dawning realization that perhaps, just perhaps, the secrets the family tried so hard to keep would finally see the light of day. I shifted slightly, waiting for that moment to unfold, my heart pounding in anticipation. Little did I know that this was only the beginning, the first twist in a much darker path yet to be unearthed. I could feel the tension in the air like a thick fog as I stepped into the living room, a familiar scene from my childhood now twisted by the bitter taste of betrayal. The spacious room was decorated with all the luxury items that came with my family's wealth. An ornate chandelier glinted overhead, the light reflecting off the fine crystal that adorned the mantel. My father was standing by the large bay window, bathed in the late afternoon sun, his back toward me. I could see his broad shoulders tense as I entered, and my heart raced. I wondered if he could feel the waves of anger radiating from me, just like I could feel the knots tightening in my stomach. My mother was sitting on the couch, her eyes fixed on a bouquet of roses. They were bright red, almost glaring against the neutral tones of the room. It was a stark contrast to the feeling of despair I carried within me. I had tried to reach out to her to get her to see the truth about what was happening, but she had given me that disappointed look, the one that said I was just being dramatic again. Mother, we need to talk, I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil churning inside me. Now is not the time, Audrey, she replied without looking up, her voice cool, dismissive. That was my mother for you, always putting on a brave face, pretending it was all perfectly normal, even when everything was falling apart. It was maddening. My brother lounged casually at the dining table the way he always did, a charm that felt like an act. He cracked a grin, a mischievous gleam in his eye. What's the matter now? Did you forget to post your latest art piece, or are you finally ready to admit I make better artwork than you? He chuckled, fully entertained by his own joke, while I felt my face flush with heat. I closed my eyes, willing myself not to rise to his bait. I had to stay focused. I had a plan. Enough. I snapped, surprising myself with the forcefulness of my voice. My father turned quickly, his eyebrows arching as if I had suddenly grown 2 heads. This is serious. We need to discuss the inheritance and what happened with grandfather's will. He favored you and you know it, I said, my hands trembling at my sides. You two got everything, but he cut me off completely. How is that fair? My chest tightened. That is not how it was, Audrey, my father interjected, his tone dripping with authority as though that alone would quell my rising indignation. Your grandfather left everything he worked for to your brother and sister. It was his choice. His choice, I repeated incredulously, my voice wavering as I paced the floor, my heart pounding in my ears. You think this is just about a choice? It is about being favored unfairly. You both were chosen over me. I am tired of being the odd one out, the one who is dismissed when it comes to family decisions. I deserve better. The words flew out of my mouth before I could even think about them, fueled by years of bottled frustration. Maybe if you were more responsible, more like your brother and sister, you wouldn't be in this position, my mother said, finally looking up from the flowers, her eyes narrowing. Responsible? I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. You call what they do responsible. My brother is busy flaunting his riches and my sister, well, she's just living off your and father's money. Neither of them has worked a day in their life. It's all about how they make you feel, isn't it? Like you're proud of them for achieving nothing. I took a calming breath, my body shaking slightly. Would they ever understand? It is not our fault you have chosen a different path, my brother chimed in, feigning a yawn, uninterested in the discussion. Life is about making choices. You chose to pursue your art instead of a real career. You can't blame us for your failures, he sneered, and my heart dropped. Failures? I clenched my fists until my nails dug into my palms, the pain grounding me. The walls of the room seemed to close in around us, and I could feel my pulse quickening, electricity crackling. You mock me for trying to follow my dreams, yet here you are standing proudly on your pedestal of privilege. I wish you could see just how unfair this all is. Then, just as I felt the weight of my words settle, my sister came rushing into the room, her presence a whirlwind of energy that seemed to suck the air from my lungs. What is this yelling about? She asked, her tone laced with disapproval. Mother, what are you letting her say? She does not have a right to speak like that. It is her turn to grumble and complain, just like she always does, my brother quipped, his grin wide and taunting. I couldn't believe the hypocrisy. You think you can just brush me aside because you are favored? Is that what this is? Look at this place. I waved my hand, gesturing to the extravagance surrounding us. You feel superior because of the money, but this money, this mansion, it will not protect you from the truth. Can we please just keep it down? My sister said, her smile faltering as my parents exchanged glances. They were clearly growing uncomfortable, the facade of family unity beginning to crack. You know this isn't the right time to discuss this. We have a family dinner planned. Grandfather's anniversary is coming up. Can't we focus on what is important? You could really harm family ties. Family ties? I challenged, almost breathless. Those ties have already been torn for years. You all have made me feel so unwanted, so unloved. The tension in the room built like a pressure cooker, and suddenly I felt tears threatening to betray me. I quickly wiped my cheeks, refusing to let the moisture fall. You think you're better, but this is all fake and hollow. You have everything and I have nothing, and it feels so unfair. My heart was racing, each beat echoing in my ears like a war drum. I could feel my blood boiling, pumping with rage at the injustice. I cannot just sit back and do nothing while you continue to take without regard for me for my dreams. My mother finally rose from the couch, standing tall in her designer dress. I could only catch a glimpse of her face, but I sensed the disappointment radiating from her. You need to understand, Audrey, we have our paths just as you have yours. You chose art, and that is wonderful, but it does not align with our family legacy. This is not meant to be a conversation about favoritism. We all know your grandfather loved all of us equally in his own way. Loved us equally? I scoffed, my voice dripping with sarcasm. How can you say that? He cut me off completely. It is obvious who his real favorites are. In that moment, I thought of the balance of power in this room. It was undeniable. They held all the cards while I was left with nothing but scraps. We just have a different legacy, my brother said with a nonchalant shrug. You were given the chance to succeed and still managed to fail. That's on you. Suddenly, the weight of betrayal hung heavily in the air. I felt my pulse racing, the adrenaline coursing through my veins as steam began to rise inside my chest. If I have failed so spectacularly, then why has grandfather left everything to you? Did you ever consider that perhaps it is not about my failings but about his choices? And what do you intend to do? My sister snapped back angrily. You won't solve anything by being bitter and spiteful. You need to get over this pity party you keep throwing. It is humiliating. Her voice was sharp, cutting through the tension with an edge that nearly sliced through my heart. Humiliating. I took a deep breath, calming my racing heart, forcing myself to focus through the fog of anger clouding my thoughts. I am doing this for us. If this family keeps pretending that everything is fine, we will never move past it. As I spoke, I felt a surge of determination build inside me. Perhaps it was time to lift the veil on this charade. Just drop it already. This is a meaningless argument, my brother shouted, his voice echoing in the vast room. Grandfather was entitled to his opinions and preferences, and so are we. You are being unreasonable. Without thinking, I blurted, I am tired of feeling like the outcast in my own family, scorned while you two reap the rewards. It is time to take control of my life. And with that declaration, the front door swung open, interrupting our escalating conversation, and my grandfather appeared in the doorway, his figure framed against the sun. His presence immediately filled the room with an uncanny heaviness, and I froze, heart stopped. Did I hear my family arguing? What could possibly be so important that you would disregard my presence? He was older but still radiated authority that demanded attention even in a family filled with angry echoes. The sharpness in his voice sent a ripple through all of us. Suddenly, I felt vulnerable standing there, caught in my emotional storm. I could feel the eyes of my family on me, their looks ranging from concern to judgment, and my resolve began to waver. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words escaped me. Would he stand by me or reinforce the unfairness that twisted my insides like a knife? All I could do was stand there, my heart racing, knowing I had reached a turning point. I was not done fighting, but would he even recognize my struggle as valid? I was trying to explain about the inheritance, grandfather, I stuttered, my voice small against the weight of his presence. Silence enveloped us as the reality of my words hung in the air like a silent accusation. As I stood there, my fate suddenly felt uncertain, a balance on a knife edge, and I could sense my family holding their breath, waiting for the inevitable fallout. Would this be the moment everything changed, or would it all crash down around me? I stood in the living room, the familiar warmth of the sun streaming through the tall windows, spilling golden light over the plush cream carpet. But today that light felt tainted by shadows of betrayal and cold reality looming over my heart. My brother had just delivered the news, the kind of news that flayed the skin and exposed raw flesh. I clenched my fists at my sides as he leaned against the doorframe, the picture of casual indifference. The confidence radiating off him made my skin crawl. How could he act so nonchalant when everything was falling apart? Can you believe it? He asked, a wicked grin stretching across his face. Mother and father are cutting you out completely, all because of that stupid argument. His voice was laced with mockery, an echo of what we had all become. I hated that he was enjoying this, cutting me out. My voice trembled and I cursed my weakness. I had to stand my ground. I had to show him that I was not going to crumble under his taunts. What do you mean? I could see the glimmer of triumph in his eyes. He thrived on my pain, on the chaos that had taken root in our family like a stubborn weed. You know exactly what I mean, Audrey. You slammed the door in their faces. You refused to take their help. He repeated the words with a mocking flair as if they were some kind of mantra. You chose to be stubborn, and this is the consequence. He took a step closer, a smirk plastered on his face, but I stood firm, my heart pounding fiercely against my ribs. Help? You mean their attempts to control my life? That kind of help? A surge of anger bubbled up within me, fighting against the tears that threatened to spill. I could feel the heat of humiliation wash over me, my cheeks burning. I glanced toward the family photos lining the mantel, memories of happier times when my brother and I had laughed together, long before the growing divides began to sour our family ties. How had we come to this? Whatever you want to call it, he shrugged, his voice dripping with disdain. You have no idea how good you had it, Audrey. Father's business is thriving and you just tossed that away. I bet you wish you could go back. That's not true. My voice cracked and I took a breath, trying to steady my racing heart. I want to be my own person, not just a shadow living in your perfect life. The words hung in the air, heavy and accusatory, and I could see his amusement flicker for just a moment. You think you're better than me because you think you're an artist or whatever. Maybe if you had accepted that offer instead of throwing it back in their faces, you wouldn't be standing there alone. He shot back, venom lacing his tongue, twisting each word like it was a knife. Stop, just stop. This isn't about being better or having a perfect life. I snapped, unable to hold back anymore. This is about being cut off, left alone while you all enjoy the spoils from father's success. You think I care about your money? I gestured wildly, my breath quickening, the words tumbling out like an uncontrolled waterfall. I don't care about the money. I care about being treated like a daughter, like someone who matters. The temperature in the room felt like it had dropped several degrees, the tension almost palpable. My brother's eyes narrowed, and I stood my ground as his expression flickered to one of surprise, then disdain. Do you really think you will get anything now? Your trust fund is worthless to them, and you know what that means. He leaned in closer, too close, the smell of cheap cologne invaded my senses. You lack the smarts to play this game, and it's only a matter of time before they see it, and so will everyone else. I felt my heart sink, a weight pressing down on my chest. It felt cruel that I was still upset about this, still fighting against a tide that had been building for years. The sting of his words dug deep, and I couldn't find the right response. I turned away, the thought of their betrayal, my parents leaving me raw. The weight of $100,000 in my trust seemed distant, a mocking shadow against the very real pain of losing my family. You think I care about money? I whispered, my voice barely above a breath. I want their love. I want them to stop treating me like a failure because I do not live up to their expectations. You are a failure, he said coldly, folding his arms. And it is time you started acting like it. Go crawl back to your painting or whatever you do. No one cares. I froze, shaken by the harshness of his words, a betrayal from the one person I thought I could trust. I turned my back to him, wrapping my arms around myself as the sting of tears began to blur my vision. My chest tightened as feelings of despair mixed with anger. I wouldn't give him the satisfaction of crying, not now. Where do you think you are going? He called after me, a mocking tone creeping back into his voice. Out, I shot back, my voice firm now. I need to get out of here. Before I could reach the front door, the familiar scent of my mother's lavender perfume wafted through the air, her soft voice filling the space. Audrey, sweetheart, can we talk? I stopped dead in my tracks. It seemed unreal to have her suddenly arrive after everything that had just happened, the confrontation that had been brewing for years suddenly boiling over. I turned slowly, my heart racing as I tried to compose myself. Her gentle demeanor grounded me, even though dread churned in my stomach. What is there to talk about? I replied, striving for a steady tone as emotions twisted inside me. It feels pretty clear to me. You know this is a misunderstanding. Please come sit with me. The pleading in her voice made me want to ignore her, to push her away. Wasn't she the one who started this entire mess? But the warmth in her expression also sparked a glimmer of hope, a fleeting thought that we could somehow mend what had been broken. I crossed my arms tightly, my heart panging with anger. This is not just a misunderstanding, it feels like my whole life has been erased in favor of what you want me to be. I spat the words at her, each one bitten off with a bitterness I couldn't hide. You made your choice by siding with him. I watched as her face fell, hurt flickering across her features. No, dear, please don't think that. Your father and I only want what is best for you. Best for me or best for your reputation? Because if it were truly for me, you would respect my choices, not try to force your options on me. You chose him over me, I accused, tears welling up again as my voice wavered. You chose his life, his wishes over what I want. You do not know me at all anymore. Listen, she said softly, taking a step forward. I understand you feel this way, but please give us a chance to rectify this. I shook my head, feeling the numbness creeping back. There is nothing to rectify. You made your choices, and they clearly show where I stand. She reached for me, her hand trembling. Audrey, stop. I know I made mistakes, but family is worth fighting for. You can't just walk away, she urged, and I felt a crack in my resolve. Family. What is family when it only seeks to control? The words came out sharp as I pulled back sharply, and I could see her eyes widen at my defiance. I refuse to be a pawn in your game, and now it feels like you and my brother are out to ruin me. I turned back toward the door, needing to escape the suffocating atmosphere threatening to swallow me whole. Audrey, please don't, she began, but before she could finish, I pushed the door open and the cool breeze rushed in, biting at my skin like the reality that had enveloped my life. I stepped outside, the weight of the conversation crashing down hard behind me. The fresh air filled my lungs, but it also carried my brother's laughter from within the house, sharp and cruel. The realization hit me like a freight train. I was losing my family, and the void it was creating was deafening. My heart raced painfully, a dark sense of betrayal burning within me, each beat preparing me for what was next. For a moment I stood frozen, feeling raw and exposed, the world around me blending into a blur of colors and sounds. Then determination surged through me like a jolt of electricity. I would not let them define me, not like this, not anymore. I had to find a way to fight back, to reclaim what I had lost. As I turned to walk away from the house, the sound of slamming doors and muffled voices echoed behind me, each noise threading closer to the heart of the conflict, the sting of betrayal palpable in the air. I knew I would not let this end here. Stepping off the porch, I felt a shift inside me, a growing resolve to not only challenge the narrative they had spun, but to reshape my destiny. I would not be the defeated, too weak to stand. And as the sun dipped lower in the sky, painting everything in shades of orange and red, I promised myself that I would rise from this ashes and claim my rightful place in this family, no matter the cost. The road ahead would be long and riddled with obstacles, but a fire ignited within me. I turned, glancing back at the facade of the house, my home, but not for long, not if I had anything to say about it. The game was just beginning, and I would not back down. The air in the house felt electric as I walked into the living room. The scent of my mother's famous roasted chicken mixed with the tension that had built up between us like a thick fog. I hesitated for a moment at the threshold, my heart racing as I prepared for the confrontation that loomed ahead. My parents sat at the long dining table, my father flipping through a stack of documents while my mother meticulously arranged napkins, her movements almost mechanical. My sister and brother were there too, their spirits as heavy as the weight of the family secrets that hung in the air. When I stepped fully into the room, their heads turned, and in that moment I felt all eyes on me. Here she comes, my mother said in a sing-song voice, but there was no joy behind the facade. My sister smirked, her eyes glinting with a mixture of sarcasm and condescension. You finally decided to show up, huh? I clenched my hands into fists, feeling my nails bite into my palms. I was busy, I muttered, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. I moved to grab a glass of water from the side table, but as I filled the glass, my brother leaned back in his chair, the smugness radiating off him. Oh, busy doing what? Plotting your revenge? He joked, but his tone had a sharper edge. I swallowed hard, the water suddenly feeling too heavy in my throat. I am not plotting anything, I shot back, attempting to deflect their attacks. Maybe if you all bothered to listen instead of mock me, you'd understand why I am so upset. My father finally looked up from the pages, his brow furrowed as his frustration bubbled to the surface. This isn't a game, Audrey, we are trying to discuss something important, he said, his voice low but firm like a hammer striking an anvil. Sure, just another family meeting to decide how to cut me out of everything that belongs to me, I replied, unable to contain my anger any longer. My mother's face turned pale, eyes widening. You think that is what we are doing, that we would intentionally cut you off? Her voice cracked, and I could see her faltering under the weight of my accusation. Of course, you chose my sister for everything. You never cared what happened to me as long as she was the perfect one, I burst out, feeling the heat rising in my cheeks as I let my resentment spill. Is that what this is really about, jealousy? My brother chirped, leaning forward as if he were waiting for more drama to unfold. You're always playing the victim card when you don't get your way. Maybe if I had a chance like you did, college, the first car, the better memories. I felt my voice rise, drowning under the tide of past grievances. I worked twice as hard and got half as much. It is unfair. I was nearly shouting now, the adrenaline rushing through my veins. Do you think that is all we care about? My father interjected sharply, standing up as he slammed the documents on the table. The sound cut through the air like a knife. This isn't just about you, Audrey. This is the future of the entire family. We have responsibilities. Your responsibilities mean nothing to me if it just translates to keeping me in the dark, I shouted back, my hands shaking with unspent rage. Why don't you just tell me what you all are really plotting? What on earth are you talking about? My sister asked, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. Why are you so paranoid? Just because we want to do what is right for the family doesn't mean you are being plotted against. Yeah, right, I huffed, grabbed the glass of water, and took a deep drink to calm my nerves. Just like you cared about me when grandfather passed and left me the $10,000 inheritance that everyone pushed aside like it was flea-infested trash. I was the one he chose, and yet here I am fighting against you all to be heard. As I said that, I watched my mother's shoulders fall ever so slightly, a flicker of guilt passing over her face, but no one else reacted. My brother continued to stare at me, processing the words as if my resentments were riddles to be solved. So you want us to just hand over the money because you were mentioned in a will? Sorry, Audrey, it doesn't work that way. You've got to earn it, he chimed in, his tone smug. Earn it? I could feel a surge of heat rise to my face. All I ever did was earn it. I clenched my teeth, wishing I could be louder, more independent. I was already earning it. I was probably the only one in this family with any kind of potential, and you all watched as I was overshadowed by everything. Potential? All you do is whine and pin your failures on everyone else, my sister retorted, her chin held high as if she were above it all. You need to stop blaming us for your life choices. Please, this entire family is built on secrets and favoritism, I spat back, the hurt cutting deeper than I was willing to admit. This isn't just about the money. This is about respect. Respect is earned, Audrey, not demanded. You've got to learn that, my mother added, her voice becoming more desperate. I could see the tears welling in her eyes, and the sight only made my anger flare hotter. Earned, so I am just meant to sit back and watch you all move on with your lives while I sit here pathetically waiting for something to change? You want to talk about respect? Look in the mirror. My heart raced, faster than my thoughts could catch up. Enough. You don't get it, do you? My father bellowed, slamming his hand down on the table again. We are doing what needs to be done for everyone, including you. You think we are doing this out of spite? We are trying to protect you from mistakes. But there was no protection being offered here, only a desire to push me aside like I was some faded picture on the family wall. I fought the tears stinging at my eyes, feeling so helpless. By choosing them over me, by making it clear that my past matters less. How do you think that feels? A moment of silence gripped the room, the weight of my words lingering like a dark cloud choking us all. I could see my sister's smirk falter just for the briefest instant before she regained her composure and shot me a glare that could freeze fire. Then, as if trying to punctuate his refusal to engage further, my father turned his back on me, refocusing on the documents. It felt as though I had been dismissed, a flick of the hand to brush me aside as if I was nothing but an inconvenient fly buzzing around his head. It was infuriating. I couldn't let them get away with this as though I was invisible. I took a deep breath, mustering every ounce of courage I had left. You all think this is just a little game and that I will quietly accept what I am told, but when I'm done, you will all see just how wrong you are. Done with what? My brother shot back, skepticism thick in his voice. The cockiness had transformed into uncertainty, but I wouldn't let it show. I will make sure you see how cut off I am, and you will witness your perfect family begin to fracture. I felt the heat rise in my cheeks, knowing the words might ignite new flames, but maybe that was exactly what I needed. Just try it, Audrey, see what you can do, my sister taunted, but I could see a flicker of doubt cross her features. My heart pounded as I turned to leave, feeling the weight of their judgment heavy in my chest. I had said more than I intended, but it felt good to stand up for myself, to tell them how I truly felt. As I headed for the door, each step felt like a release, a final note in a symphony that had been playing under the surface for too long. My hand gripped the doorknob tightly, the wood smooth under my touch as I prepared to walk out into the uncertainty beyond. Sound of my father's voice stopping me made my stomach drop. Audrey, wait, but I didn't look back. Instead, I pulled the door open with resolve, stepping into the cold evening air filled with the salty tang of the ocean in the distance like a whispering promise. I needed to breathe, to think, to formulate a plan. I felt lighter as the door closed behind me, sealing me off from their scrutinizing stares. And just as I was turning to walk down the porch steps, my sister's voice rang out behind me. You really think they will take your side over mine? You are delusional. The challenge loomed in the air like a storm cloud overhead, and for the first time in my life, I felt unmistakably fierce. Watch me. With those words hanging between us like a challenge, I left the house, my heart racing and a newfound sense of determination thrumming in my veins. There was a quiet line drawn in the sand now. I had to reclaim the life I had always wanted, and I wouldn't let them stand in my way any longer. As I walked away, the world around me faded, consumed by the echo of my voice, a promise to myself. I would illuminate the shadows they had cast over me, ready to rise in rebellion, fueled by the fire of a hard truth that I had hidden for far too long. I would show them how powerful I could be. I stood at the threshold of my grandparents' house, the familiar wooden door creaking ominously as I pushed it open. The sweet aroma of baked goods wafted through the air, a stark contrast to the tension that filled my heart. My grandparents had decorated the living room with autumn hues. Pumpkins adorned the mantel, and the warm glow from the fireplace cast flickering shadows on the walls. But even the warmth felt cold today, the kind of cold that creeps in like a thick fog and suffocates the joy. Today was the day of the family meeting, and as I stepped inside, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was walking into a battlefield. Where have you been? My mother snapped, her voice sharper than usual as I crossed the threshold. I felt my heart drop, weighing heavy in my chest. I had to pick up that heirloom lamp from the antique store, I replied, forcing myself to sound casual. That was a lie, and I knew it. I had deliberately delayed my arrival, hoping to avoid this confrontation. You should not be late. We all need to be together for this, my father added, his brow furrowed, eyes narrowing as if he were assessing my every move. The air thickened as I looked around the room, noting the way my brother lounged on the couch, seemingly indifferent, scrolling through his phone. He looked up, rolling his eyes at the tension. Relax, it is not like we are going to get thrown out of the house today or something. The comment sent a shiver down my spine, an unwelcome reminder of the family feud brewing beneath the surface, our inheritance hanging in the balance. I offered my brother a tight-lipped smile that didn't reach my eyes. Maybe you should pay attention, considering you might be next in line for that situation. I shot back, my voice quieter, but edged with the steel I hoped he could sense. My sister sat beside my brother, already wearing that self-satisfied smirk that had always gotten on my nerves. You are probably just jealous that grandmother likes me better, she teased, her tone mocking. Keep dreaming, I replied, feeling a flash of heat rise in my cheeks. You know they only think you're perfect because you dance around everything with a smile on your face. At least I do not create drama like you do, she snapped back, her voice slicing through the air. I wished I could have thrown back a quick retort, but I was too shaken, too weary from the emotional weight carried throughout this family, a weight that was now about to crush me under the pretense of this gathering. Suddenly my grandfather entered the room, his presence compelling silence. With his silver hair neatly combed and a distinguished air, he surveyed the room before settling his gaze on me. Audrey, it is good to see you here, he said, warmth contrasting my mother's icy reception. Let's sit down. We need to discuss something important. The room felt charged as we all took our seats around the large wooden dining table, its surface polished to a high sheen. The clinking of silver on porcelain echoed in the quiet. I sank into my chair, feeling the coolness of the wood against the back of my thighs, a grounding sensation as I braced myself for whatever was coming. My grandfather cleared his throat, and I could see the worry lines etched deep into his face. With your grandmother and I getting older, we felt there were some matters regarding the estate and inheritance that needed to be clarified. My heart raced. Estate, inheritance, the words hung over our heads, a storm cloud ready to erupt. My sister leaned forward, her interest piqued. What do you mean, Grandpa? She asked, her voice innocently curious, but I knew better. My grandfather's gaze flickered between us, a tinge of regret shadowing his eyes. I clenched my fists, feeling the smooth wood of the table beneath my palms. We have decided it is time to officially name the heirs of the estate. My heart sank like a stone in water. My mind spiraled, each thought clouded with the echo of my sister's secret dealings and my brother's recklessness. You mean who gets what? My mother interjected, her voice dripping with an unsettling mix of excitement and anxiety. Of course, it would only be fair for you to take your time and explain. I could see the tight grip my mother had on her own emotions, the way her fingers drummed against the table. Fairness has never been a word associated with our family, I muttered under my breath, but the bitterness slipped into the atmosphere like a bad smell. My grandfather nodded slowly. Yes, fair is essential, but loyalty matters more, family loyalty. The weight of his words suffocated me, my throat felt dry, and I could taste bitterness at the back of my mouth. What do you mean by loyalty? I asked, feeling some part of me flicker with anger. It means we must remain united. I will not have division in our family, especially not over money. My heart pounded like a drum club, knowing what this meant for any chance I had of not being disowned. You need your children to play by the rules set, and if you do not think we are indeed loyal, I asked, my voice rising with each word. Are you going to cut me off? Silence swallowed the room, thick and suffocating. I could feel the heat creeping to my face as every gaze landed on me. No one is being cut off, my grandfather insisted, though I could hear the waver in his voice, the uncertainty. But we are making sure there are no questions about who is deserving of what. It is important that you all support each other. We may not have much time left. My chest tightened, and I looked at my brother, who suddenly appeared less relaxed, more alert. So who will it be then? He asked, the tension palpable. Who are you going to favor? I could see my sister fidgeting, her fingers playing with the hem of her sweater, avoiding eye contact. No one should be favored. If there is any favoritism, it only breeds resentment among us. Then what about the items I have always wanted? My sister challenged, her voice defensive. All of us deserve something if we are family. The way she said family sent a chill through me, her lips curling into a smile that did not reach her eyes. You mean all of us except for our sister. She emphasized the word sister, each syllable dripping with disdain. You have always thought you were the better child, haven't you? Always playing perfect little daughter, never making mistakes. The tension in the air was electric, crackling like static. I couldn't hold back the frustration any longer. I never pretended to be better. I just tried to be myself, I shot at my sister, feeling my voice shake from the emotion simmering dangerously close to the surface. If being myself makes me less worthy, then so be it. That is the issue, though, my mother interjected, her voice icy. You think being yourself is enough, it should not come at the expense of others. I felt my breath catch in my throat, my hands trembling. How is that fair? I never asked for anything more than my rightful share, but all you do is cut me down at every turn. You always favored her. I gestured toward my sister, feeling the heat of anger blazing through me. Every time you choose to ignore my accomplishments or support hers instead, it is like you mock me. Enough, all of you, my grandfather warned, his voice resonating with authority as he thumped his hand on the table, the echo resonating through the room. I sat up straighter, my resolve hardening. You may think you have all the power here, but I am not going to sit by and let you walk all over me anymore, I declared, my voice steady now, challenging, demanding to be seen. You may think this is what loyalty means, but I cannot pretend anymore. Audrey, you need to temper your emotions, my mother said, her voice low and cutting. Emotions will not help you. It is all about money. My sister shot back smoothly, hiding her own nerves behind that veneer of superiority. Let me tell you something, my sister can tag along behind us, but she is not going to take what belongs to me. You are all right to think I am better, and it always will be that way. I am essential here. My chest tightened again as I tried to blink away tears that threatened to spill over. My heart raced with a fury that pushed me to share the secret I had been harboring, that devastating truth. You all act as if we were not all there for one another, and I never chose sides. But you all chose to turn against me the moment it mattered most. The room fell eerily quiet as those words hung in the air. I could almost feel the pulse of blood in my ears, and I hoped for a moment that I was shaking the ground beneath them. We are family, my grandfather said calmly now, regain composure with each word. That should be stronger than any material desire. Family, I repeated, embers of fury flickering behind my eyes. Is that what you think? You cut me off and keep favoring my sister. You have left me in the dark for too long, forgetting me as if I do not exist. The words tumbled out, a confession, a challenge. If you think you can keep doing this, pushing me aside, then you will have a real fight on your hands. There will be no more secrets, no more pretending I do not matter. My grandfather's expression darkened, the warmth replaced by a stern look, a warning simmering beneath the surface. You should be careful what you wish for, he replied, and for a moment the man I loved felt like a stranger. I took a deep breath, my heart pounding. Something snapped within me, a force I had not anticipated igniting the quiet resolve turning into something powerful. If that is how you want it, so be it. I will demand my share, and I will not back down until I get what is rightfully mine. I stood up abruptly from the table, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. If you want to talk about loyalty, now is the time to examine that within ourselves. My voice trembled but was firm as I made my way to the door. I deserve a seat at the table, too. The air hung thick with unspoken judgment, tension crackling like electricity. I slammed the door behind me, the echo reverberating in the halls as my heart raced with a mix of fear and adrenaline. I took a moment to collect myself outside, the cool breeze brushing against my flushed cheeks. My heart was still pounding, and the gravity of what had just transpired settled like a weight in my stomach. But even as doubt nagged at me, I felt, for the first time, unshackled by their expectations. I was not just a daughter or sister who had to fade into the background. I turned back toward the house, my resolve hardening. I wouldn't let their betrayal keep me silent, and I wouldn't let their favoritism dictate my future. I was done playing their game. I could feel it in my bones that this was far from over. Something had shifted today, and I would take my rightful place, whatever it took. With that, I made my way toward the darkening street, the rising moon shedding silver light on my path, a reminder that my journey was just beginning.